Welcome back to the Good Sport Podcast, where we like to talk about how we see virtue in sports. Today's episode, we are interviewing Javier Reyes, the host of Locked On Padres, a daily breakdown of the Padres. Take it away, Javier.
What's going on, man? Thank you for having me on. I am honored for you to reach out. It means a lot, especially because it's pretty funny how I got into this in the first place and whatnot. It's doing well, my friend, doing well. How are you feeling? Because I know that these days it's a little bit easier, at least for now, to be a Padres fan. So that's good.
Yes, was worried about that in the first few games of the year where they were struggling against the Tigers. So big comeback so far. So
absolutely. Long season.
Yeah, so I had some questions I was hoping to ask you. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Shoot, man. I'm an open book.
All right. How did you first become a Padres fan?
So I'm from the East Coast, believe it or not. I'm still there at a currently undisclosed location. I was first a Yankees fan growing up because it's my parents. It's the one sport that they were into. So that's kind of what happened. And around, I would say, high school, actually, for me, I started just not liking them anymore for a variety of different reasons. Some on field, some off field, some vibes based. So I still followed them, but it was only because I hated the Red Sox so much. I hated Boston sports so much, which is probably the most Northeast, specifically Jersey, metropolitan area thing about me. But that was the only reason. And they just didn't have that same pull that they did when I was growing up. So then one of my really close friends who I met in high school, he's actually a San Diego native. And we went down there, visit his mom and everything this past year. And so that's how I kind of became aware of the Padres, but they weren't as relevant, I don't think, back then. They just had a couple interesting trades, a couple interesting seasons. I knew that they had Tony Gwynn. I knew stuff like that just as a follower of the sport. And then around 2020, I think it was 29. Actually, it was right before the pandemic. Someone reached out and was like, "Hey, we have these open spots for different shows on this network. We're trying to grow and whatnot, and we like what you have done, especially because I did a bunch of radio stuff in college. Really great times in my life." And then I saw that some people ask me sometimes, if the Yankees or Mets spots were open, would you have taken them? Maybe. I'm not going to lie, because sometimes I have to stay up late over here. But the Padres were available. And I was like, oh, cool. I've been following them, especially ever since AJ Preller came on board. So then I did the show, and then I just fell in love with the team as time went on. And I think it's just it's really funny how you never really know what's going to happen in your life. You never know what's going to lead to another thing. It could be a friend of yours you met who you met later in life, and he just happened to be from San Diego. It could be a Canadian who runs a podcast network and is looking for hosts, and all of a sudden is like, hey, I like your stuff. And that's it. We kind of just went from there. And I'm really grateful for it too, because it has been really fun being on what feels like the ground floor of a franchise and a culture that was always there, but it wasn't always given the breadth to really thrive and succeed. So I've been really grateful for that. And there you go. Here we are today. I've got my little hat behind me. I got this one right outside Petco, I believe. It was at a flea market. I forgot where it was exactly, but I got that one. Really liked it.
Selling hats and jerseys outside of Petco.
So. Yeah, they had a ton there, and I have the City Connect you're wearing right now, the old ones. I actually have a shirt, but it's of Eric Hosmer, which was sent to me as a joke because my friends knew I didn't think he was doing as well as he could have, maybe with the Padres. A bit of a disappointment, I think. But I have that. I've got the new City Connects coming in, so I've just been all Padre ever since. You know what I mean? It's just I never realized though. I never would have thought that it would have gone this direction for sure.
Who were some of your favorite players as a kid?
Oh man, that's great. I would say a good amount are Yankees. I would say because someone actually asked me this not too long ago. I think we did it in an article for a website that I contribute to. I remember really liking Brett Gardner growing up because I didn't have a lot of friends in middle school. I had some, but I was routinely pretty mocked. Which was odd, right? But and don't get me wrong, you look back and it's for all this frivolous nonsense. But I remember I was like, I don't want to like the same stuff these people that are made to be like. So everyone likes Jeter, everyone likes A-Rod, they like Rivera, they like I don't know, even Andy Pettit, probably, right? Mike Mussina, guys like that. So I loved this guy and Brett Gardner who just came up and was a speed dude, which at that time of Yankees baseball, there wasn't a lot of that. And it was just really fun being like, that's my guy, though. Like, I get to claim that as my own. So that was one for sure. Lou Gehrig,
Mhm.
not a lot of depth there. I just think that his speech is one of the most important speeches I've ever heard in my life. I try
Mhm.
to remember it constantly. Just the idea of someone who's on death's door having their life basically cut and taken away from them in the most what feels like arbitrary thing possible, especially at that time. And to just be genuinely like, no, I'm like the luckiest person ever. Like I just that always sticks with me, I think. CC Sabathia, another one was great. And then I have some other favorite athletes across other sports, but I'd say for baseball, those were kind of like the originals. And I still liked your Jeters and your Ken Griffey's every time he was in Seattle. If I got to like see him on a broadcast or something like
Mhm.
that. And Mike
So I
Mussina.
assume you liked the Knicks and not the Celtics.
No, definitely not the Celtics. Definitely not. I didn't get into basketball much until much later.
No.
Um, I was primarily my parents didn't care about basketball or football. They cared about baseball, which is one of the most Puerto Rican things I think you could say about me. But they didn't really care about that. My dad used to be a Knicks fan and all that. So I kind of floated around and I just decided to follow Chris Paul.
Mm.
He was the one that back when he was with the Hornets, those old yellow Hornets uniforms that I love so much. I still have a hat of it. I don't have it right now, but I just loved watching him play. And it was a series against the Spurs where he went up for a shot, gets hit in the playoffs, and then he does a spin as he's hitting the air and throws it up. You might
Mhm.
have even seen the play, and it still goes in. And at the time, I was like, that's the most insane thing I'd ever seen, right? Like, and I decided to follow him and just make that my guy. So I never really had as much a team. I'm sort of like bandwagoning the Knicks these days because I have a lot of friends in New York.
Mm.
But yeah, I would say I was more of just a Chris Paul fan rather than a fan of any single team when it comes to basketball.
What was your first episode like?
Oh man, great question. Um, it was more, I would say it was more like trying to make sure the technical part was figured out. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I was more just like, I want the sound to sound good. And I know that a lot of people are going to immediately tell, oh, this guy doesn't know about, Khalil Green's OPS in 2005, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to tell you as much of the nitty gritty stuff, but I
Mm.
kind of like tried to accept that and be like, that's fine. But I want to at least be like, the show is formatted well, that
Mm.
I'm not saying too much, that I'm speaking clearly and all those things. And it took a while. I haven't listened back to the first episode. I'd be terrified to. I think it was about Machado, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was talking about how he could have because at the time he was a little bit disappointing, I think in
Mm.
2019. So still good, still hit 30
Guy
homers.
re-signed with the Padres.
Yeah. And I was like, this is still like a top level player. I still believe that. I think that's what my first episode was like a nice little easy topic that no one's going to hate me for, and just kind of going from there.
What's been your favorite moment as a podcast host so far?
Oh, man. Mm. I think two for sure.
Mm.
Number one, with Locked On, we had a little partnership back in, I'm going to say 2021 where it was like do you remember like so you know how like they have the Twitter lives where you join in with your voice? There
Yeah.
was another company called Locker Room at the time,
Mm.
and they had a little partnership, so they want all the hosts to host a room once a week and do that. And I had on with me the Rangers host. He joined mine, or I joined his, and it was his first one. I think this is like my fifth or sixth at this point. Did it a lot, a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun just seeing random people pop in and whatnot.
Mhm.
And it happened that this Rangers host, it was the first one he did, and it was the Joe Musgrove no hitter. And it
Wow.
was just really, really funny that we're staying online because we're like, well, we got to figure this because usually it was like 35 minutes or so. And
Mhm.
we were like, well, we can't log off now. Like, this is for the record now. So we did that. He's losing his mind, and I like ran outside. So that was great. And then the Juan Soto trade. I was doing some remote work. I was in an office meeting, and I had to mute my mic when the Jeff Passan notification came in. That was just so much fun. And 2022 was just a dream in a lot of ways. 24, I think, was their best season, but 22, beating the Dodgers in that one playoff series. I am down in Chester, Maryland with my sister. We like rented out a house to celebrate her birthday, and everybody's asleep except for me and my one cousin. And and he's in a bathtub. He's in the hot tub outside, totally dark outside, and then he's got like a little cigar. He has no idea what's going on. He's not a baseball fan, and I'm just in the kitchen, 1 a.m. like stress eating chips like crazy. And then of course they win. I go out just like that, and he's like, nice, like, because he doesn't know enough. But those are probably easily the highlights. So nothing different, I think, than what most people would say in the last 6 years of Padres baseball, but super, super fun, and I'll never forget those for sure.
Mm-hmm. What made baseball special to you growing up?
I think aside from just family culture, right? I like joking all the time about the podcast being Puerto Rican and stuff like that, but it really is a big deal for us. But I'd say more so that there wasn't, especially when you first are getting into it, there wasn't the kind of mold of like, this is what you have to be. You have to be tall. You have to be fast. You have to be strong. You could kind of look like me right now and technically figure it out in baseball. Don't get me wrong. You still got to, work at it. You got to work out. You got to practice. But I just love that there wasn't any gatekeeping in terms of your physical like characteristics, I think. And that's what I loved about it. And I thought that was really neat. Obviously there was other things about it I didn't like, for sure. But I think that when it came to it, I think that's what it was. Just being like, there's something simple about it. I kind of like the length. I like that you could talk during it. It's a nice watch. It's just something that you have on in the background that's always right there for you. And I think that also when it came to playing it, there was just something about like, doesn't matter if you're a chunky guy, doesn't matter if you're a little bit shorter, doesn't matter if you're not that fast. If you could hit, if you could just find your niche, you could just be a good catcher who knows how to throw the ball to second base well, and you'll find value. And the fact that it wasn't just
very different than other sports, because basketball, height, football, weight, hockey, agility.
Absolutely. And I think the final part of that would be just like, you could have the best player in the state on your team. But if everybody, like basketball, while I love it as a culture, I love playing pickup every now and then with my friends. Sometimes, unfortunately, you play with guys that are a little bit annoying and they take the ball the entire time. They take every shot. And unfortunately, sometimes those guys are good, right? But what I love about baseball is you're not going to have someone who dominates everything. You will get your chance. You might not do anything, but there's just something to be said for like, it's like a very humbling sport, I think, in a lot of ways. It's the most individualistic team sport out there, but I think there's something really beautiful about that.
How did baseball shape you into who you are today?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, that first part, what I just said, like, I just love the kind of what we said in the previous question, just kind of it. You can't carry everything yourself. You can't do everything yourself. You can't just rely on that one person to carry you through things for better or worse. And I just love how much depth there was to it. You know what I mean? I just mentioned it before. Maybe you're a good catcher, but you can't hit. Maybe you're a great first baseman, but you can't hit for average. Maybe you draw a lot of walks, but you can't make the best contact. Maybe you hit one in your Little League World Series that nearly went over the fence, but you also struck out a lot. That was me, that last one. And I think that there was just something really fun about that. And I also think, though, to a degree, some bad respects of it. I think that baseball sometimes can be a little gatekeepy when it comes to the culture aspect of it. And I think that we're actually moving past that. It's really cool that we don't see the like bat flips, meaning you can get hit by a pitch now. But I did grow up and play where it was like, there's things you just don't do. You know what I mean? And it's all this stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? This is so soft. This idea that like, if I just go like at first base after a hit, that they're, no, you don't do that. What are you talking about? I'm not going to be mean. I don't want to be a jerk about it. But it's like, what are we kind of doing here? And I think that there's something about the humbling aspect of it. But then also, in fairness, in a bad way, it started making me look at things and how much I think societal norms, things that we've established as humble and whatnot, that they can sometimes block people from showing off personality, which I don't like. But I do think that the good far outweighs the bad.
Do you remember your first ever Padre game?
Yes. Like Padre game as in attending or attending? That was, yes, it was in May. It was at Petco. Or no, actually, no. Technically not. I think my first Padres game is against the Nationals, actually. This is 2021. Went up to visit my friend. He lives in D.C., or at least he was in the D.C. area at this time. Now he literally lives in D.C.
Hockey's big year.
Yeah, Tatis's big year. This was the weekend. Oh man, I forgot which one it was. I forgot which game it was exactly though, but I think it was there. Um, or if it wasn't that game, and if I'm getting it wrong, then it would be a Yankees game I went to with a friend in 2023. If you remember, this was, I believe, it was in Yankee Stadium. I think, who was it that walked off the Padres? Someone walked off the Padres that wasn't good, like Volpe or something like that. Like I hit a walk off against them, and that was frustrating. Or no, Isaiah Kiner Falefa was the one who did it. It was a walk off against the Padres. This is when they're all shouting cheater. This is the day after when they were chanting PEDs, and then he did the violin thing, if you might remember, while they were doing that. He had a home run. It was so we went to the Saturday game. If I'm getting that wrong, I could be mistaken, but I think the DC thing might have been us watching it on the phone, maybe while we were at a ballpark. So maybe I'm getting confused, but I know for sure that was one of the earliest ones that I attended where the Padres were playing.
How do you think the Padres will do this year?
Great question, man. I think they'll be fine. You know, I'm not expecting incredible stuff. I get asked a lot about whether or not they missed their chance in 2024. I do a little bit. There was just something about that year that felt magical. 24 scoreless innings, all that stuff. But I think they'll be good. I really do. I just think that they are motivated to be good. And whether people like to admit it or not, there's a lot of teams in baseball that aren't motivated to be good, whether it be because of lack of spending or just being just generally incapable of developing talent. But the Padres, the fact that that Preller is motivated, that the rest of the team is motivated to do well, I think that will mean something, and they are a win now team that's built to win now. So they're not going to be like, yeah, let's just punt on the season because we're only 3 games above 500. So I think at the minimum, they should be fine. Probably a playoff team.
What do you think about Craig Stammen's perspective on the team as he's been mixing up players in the order and putting Tatis at second the other day? And yeah, what do you think about that?
What do I think about that? He's been the antithesis of ridiculous words to use right now, but the antithesis, kind of the complete opposite of the previous managers that they've had with Bob Melvin and Mike Schilt, who bring a lot to the table. There's something to be said for having old school, be a little bit more conservative vibes. I'm not hating on that, but it is really cool that for a team that has often, given all the flash and the headlines and the budget and all that sort of stuff, maybe not gone as far as people would have expected for a team making as many headlines, that it's kind of cool that they're like, all right, let's try something a little bit different. Let's bring in a guy who's like, yeah, Tatis is playing second tonight. Yeah, Jake Cronenworth is going to lead off. Yeah, Tatis, we're actually moving him out of leadoff. Merrill's going to hit cleanup. Castellanos is going to hit more against righties for some reason. Like, I just respect that it is such a long season that instead of just holding true to everything the whole way through, you're just like, let's try out new things and see where it goes. Because I'd rather do that, especially when the Padres are not as much in the driver's position that they might have been at in previous years. So you got to get a little bit more creative and hope that things fall your way.
In one of my previous episodes, me and some of my friends were talking about who we thought the Padres could trade for. So we brought up was Jazz Chisholm. Do you think that would be a good move? And who would we trade for?
See, this is where it gets tricky, right? Because I don't know what assets the Padres are going to have to make a trade. And I don't know if Jazz Chisholm is a guy that the Yankees are going to give up. This is a 4.5 win, hits 30 home runs last year, steals 30 bases. Year before that, he was very good. And yes, he's made a lot of boneheaded decisions so far in terms of especially with some of his fielding mistakes, but he's going to get going, I think. And while I'd love to have him on the team, I don't know what you do with Jay Cronenworth after that. Are you able to convince the Yankees to take him on? Okay, but they're probably going to need a big prospect in return. Do you want to empty the farm yet again? I'm not totally sure. I think that they're going to be looking at now, though, depending on what Nick Pavetta's health is. I think they could be looking for a starter. Not necessarily, everyone's going to talk about Tarek Skubal, but I think it'd just be like a decent mid-level type of starter.
You think Skeens maybe?
No, they don't have enough, I don't think, the Padres right now to get Paul Skeens, and I don't think they're going to trade him just yet. I think that's going to be something more next year. I think the Pirates, they sign a couple guys. They probably want to just see how their rotation looks. I hope they end up investing in that team, but for right now, I have no doubt for right now. So right now, I think, yes, Paul Skeens will be traded, but not this year because I just want to wait a little bit They did just give Connor Griffin, their top prospect, a big extension. Maybe they'll start trying, but then again, this is a team that has not spent like at all for like 10 years. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's just like, yeah, Paul Skeens will be on the Yankees, because that's what tends to happen in baseball.
Let's see. What's one move that the Padres have done that you've questioned?
Oh, man. I question them all, man. I question them all, but I would say, oh, man. I mean, the one that I've been getting a lot of crap for, I'd say, is the Mason Miller trade. Because I love him. I mean, you've seen the numbers, man. Isaac, you probably know, like, what is it? Like 1 of 73 and 58 are strikeouts.
He has like 30 hitless innings.
Like, it doesn't make sense, right? But for me, I question it because this is a team that has been inconsistent at times, and the blowing up your farm has not always led to consistent success. So for me, I look at their farm system and they just don't have a lot right now. I understand that AJ Preller is amazing at finding talent. But for me, I look at it and say, you gave up a really awesome asset for an incredible player. I don't think I mind trading DeVries in a vacuum at all. But if that was your only kind of big ticket that you had, would you prefer if the Tigers came knocking and were like, I mean, I don't know, or the Pirates even, let's, as an example, if they were like, yo, give us like Tyson Schoolcraft or Cruz Schoolcraft and one other random guy and Leo DeVries, and we'll give you Paul Skeens because they're cheap, right? It's not it's out of the question that the Pirates will just be like, we're too cheap, we don't care. I would rather do that than a reliever, especially because relievers are volatile compared to a lot of other positions. They can go a little bit year to year. That's not going to happen with Mason. That's not what I'm saying. But they're also relievers. I think you can find relief pitching at the deadline, even for a little bit. And at the time they made the trade, the Padres still had the best bullpen in baseball. So it's one that I really question. And I imagine it's not the one that people are questioning right now. I think everybody talks about the Soto trade all the time. They talk about, Andres Muniz for Austin Nola. That was the tough one. They made a lot of weird ones, but that's the one that I'm questioning the most right now. But I'm hoping I'm wrong, and that by the end of the year, it'll be like, oh, the Padres found more cool talent, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, we also talked about maybe picking up Ketel Marte. He's kind of underrated, but he's still got some power, some contact, some good fielding. What do you think about that?
I mean, Ketel Marte would be great, but he does have a contract. I believe he's been signed to a big one, and I don't know if we'll have to see if the Padres get sold, what happens there. But would they be willing to add a 7-year, $160 million deal, last until 2030? I think that becomes a little bit of an ownership thing. Like, how much money are they willing to continue spending on the team? The current one, they're trying to sell for a reason, right? But that would take a lot, and also trades within division are just really, really hard and exceptionally rare.
So going back to the team's leadership, who do you think should buy it, or how do you think that whole thing should be settled?
Just who do I think? Anyone who's going to be like, I care about baseball, and I'm not just going to purchase something with the hopes of selling it for more in 10 years. That's
not
all.
Like Mavericks.
Exactly. You do not want a Mavericks thing where it's more investment than passion. That's all you can hope for. Even if sometimes the passion isn't good, or at least I should say, not if the passion isn't good, if the passion leads to a little bit, you're being overzealous, maybe you make some bad moves, I will take that any day in baseball, because I think that if you ask the A's fans, if you ask the Brewers fans, if you ask the Guardians fans, they would be like, you know what rocks, man? Actually having a chance to side star players, like actually having a chance when, if you look at the past, I think it's 32 years in Major League Baseball, there's only been 3 teams outside the top half of payroll that have won the World Series. And one of them had Miguel Cabrera, right? So they also had to get like a literal Hall of Fame, one of the best hitters of the generation on their team. That was the Marlins at that time. So it's really, really hard. You don't have to spend the most, just a little bit, or at least a decent amount to be competitive. So I think those poor fans are like, dude, I would kill to just have a chance like you guys do. And yes, it's not great right now necessarily with some of the payroll stuff, but at least there's some hope. It keeps everyone infinitely more engaged. So I've heard Joe Lacob of the Warriors, right? I forgot the name of the Pistons owner. He's been mentioned. And then a couple private equity guys. I would lean towards the guys that are sports owners only because they've done it before. But then again, I don't know, because then they might also they might have their attentions divided. If you're the Pistons owner, you're also focusing on the Padres, focusing on the Padres too. Maybe that leads to a little bit of divestment from the team. I don't know. So I'm just hoping it's someone that cares. That's all you can hope for.
So, what character traits do you think baseball teaches players the most?
Teaches players the most? Huh. I think patience. I think this is not a sport where you can. I just think there's something to why I think it's the hardest. I understand people talk about hitting the baseball as hardest. I think it's that, but for me, it's more you could strike out and then you have to wait potentially an hour to be able to do something again. You miss a shot in basketball, you can get back on defense. You miss a play in football, we got the next snap, right? Like there's more of an immediacy to it. If you're in the field and you make an error, you feel like a doofus and you might not get a ball hits you for a while, right? Like there's something to having to be focused for so long. And even when you mess up, feeling like you're just the complete, biggest doofus in the world and just having to wait a while to make up for your mistake or your lack of production. And I think there's something to be said for that level of patience and not overreacting to just one given moment in time, which is ironic considering that baseball fans tend to freak out after one series, right? If it doesn't go their way. But overall, I think that's kind of what baseball might teach you the most.
How important do you think humility is in baseball? For example, like Barry Bonds was not humble and he got kicked out. So
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons for Barry Bonds, right? Like the Barry Bonds thing is a whole can of worms, I think, to open. I think it's important, but it's also worth noting that there are that it comes in different shapes and sizes. I think some people assume that guys who do a dance or whatever when they get to second after a double, that means they're not humble. And I think that's more of just a cultural style thing. I mean, I've seen Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays when the Dominican League on a home run, and he's just yelling at his teammates on the other side, walking around. Then you watch him, and he's one of the most patient, just consistent hitters, especially young hitters in the game. So I think that humility is important, but I think it's almost maybe humility towards just the process. And under that part, I don't think it means that you can't be proud and excited about what you do. I do think it means, I had a bad game. Hey, man, it's okay. Relax. You're not going to hit it every time. Just be focused. And if you are on fire, remember, hey, still a lot of more opportunities for you to mess up. So still keep in mind and just stay focused, I think. But when it comes to like the way you celebrate, everybody's different, man. We got a lot of cultures in the sport.
Can you think of some current MLB players that show character?
What kind of character? Just character in general?
Well, like perseverance, humility, patience.
Wow, it's a great question. I mean, I have to think about that. That's a great question, man. Like who I think are kind of like the epitome of those things. I'd have to think about that. I think that there's a lot of different guys out there. I think that you look at someone like, Jordan Walker, let's say. This is a guy that I look at who has been really struggling for a long time in the sport. Took him a while. And maybe he's figuring it out this year. He's, by certain metrics, one of the 5 best batters in baseball. He's got 7 home runs already in just 15 games, right? Like, that's absolutely nuts. And he is a guy that has gone through it, right? Like, he has been a guy that they sent down super quickly after not performing. So those are the guys that I look at and I always root for. The guys who are, do you know the scene in Moneyball where they show Billy Bean's playing career? It's like, to me, a scene that I have trouble watching sometimes because it must be so devastating to be viewed as a disappointment. I say that in quotes because I think success is very subjective in our world. But in the context of baseball, yeah, it must really stink to be like, you're this great thing. We believe in you. And for you to go out and just fail, you just think your life's over. So I always root for those guys who start off really poorly in their careers, especially in an era of short attention spans where everybody, oh, this guy didn't do it in 2 weeks. Jackson Holliday, he's a bust, right? Bobby Wood Jr., his first year, he wasn't good. He's a bust. But I especially feel it for guys that really, really do struggle and then eventually find their way. Kevin Gausman, Carlos Rodon being some other ones, right? Guys that just, it's tough. And I can't imagine what it feels like to be like, I'm up here, I'm blowing it. I thought I was going to have it made or at least just have a good career. And I've been terrible. And for you to just be able to lock in and eventually find it out, I think is so cool. And I think speaks to the beauty of baseball that it comes in different shapes and sizes. Some guys are good immediately. Some people are Tatis. And then some people are a Jordan Walker, potentially, where it took them some time, but they eventually figure it out.
Do you like the way baseball is heading, like with AI and ABS and stuff? And what's one thing you would change about that?
I think that when it comes to ABS, I like it. I am not a huge proponent of AI. I think that is a very volatile, very dangerous type of technology that I don't think has been regulated enough yet. Although I, of course, recognize the good. But I think ABS has been so solid, and I would like to keep it where it currently is. I do worry because it's very rare us as humans ever say enough is enough, right? And I do wonder if people are going to say, "Oh, well, they missed that one call and they didn't have challenges, but this is unfair. Like this one team lost or whatever." And I do worry about how much people are eager to replace humans to do things. That being said, I think baseball's direction has been one of change. I think that culturally they've improved. I will never forget the Tatis 3-0 Grand Slam and how he got a lot of pushback for that for reasons that will be for another podcast. But then after that, it's kind of gone away. And guys are like, no, like this is strike them out if you don't want that. This is silly. Why do we get to keep trying? But because they're up by a lot, they can't. They just have to roll over. It's, well, we don't have a mercy rule. What are we doing, right? So I think that part has changed. I like the ABS system. I like the City Connect system. I like the way that they have more young creators in the sport, whether it be through TikTok or MLB Cut 4 on Instagram, whatever it is, like just doing different ways of covering the sport. I think that that's really awesome too. And I think that the pitch clock is really cool. I just like that overall baseball has shown that they're not just sitting there and they're like, all right, let's take a step back. Let's actually see if there are ways to improve our product and make it more exciting. And you've seen that with attendance, with heck, even I think it was reported the other day that black attendance in baseball is the highest it's been in 20 years. And that's like really cool. It's like we're getting back to a sport that is very international, right? I mean, look at Shohei Ohtani. There's a reason why he's the most popular like athlete in the country, dare I say. So I think that there's so much good lately for baseball, which for me, for a while from watching baseball, it always felt like we were going back. It always felt like we're just staying still. We're just, hey, we're aiming after that 60 age and up demographic, which if anybody knows business, that's not your number one demographic that you want to aim for. You want to get some young people involved. And I think that's what they've been doing. And it's just really solid stuff and a really good product in the regular season that I think they can make even better with some changes, potentially with some ownership, in my opinion. But I like the direction they're heading for sure.
Who are some of your favorite players to watch the highlights of right now?
Right now? Oh, great question. Ellie De La Cruz is one that comes to mind. He reminds me so much of Tatis when he first got into the league. Yeah, like, and he's such a freak athlete, and he has such this infectious joy that he plays with almost. Where every time I see him, that guy looks like he's so jazzed to be here, and I love watching that. He's very good, and I think that Blake Snell always makes me laugh because he looks like he hates pitching when he's pitching. Like he's like he looks like it's just a face thing. I understand that, but there's just something about that. And then eventually, when he gets warmed up, he's like a top 6 pitcher in baseball, which is, Adrian Morejon shares this too. He's like, or I wouldn't say that he looks like he hates baseball. He looks like he's panicking constantly. That's what it looks like with Adrian Morejon. So I'm always entertained by those in particular. Although there's obviously many more. Baseball has tons of guys. I love just watching Jordan look like Thanos in the box. Like it's like he's a sphinx. Nothing phases this guy, right? And just in general, guys like that. And honestly, Jazz Chisholm too, who we talked about earlier, who I just think has such a cool style to him, a style that Yankees fans aren't accustomed to, and a guy who's just really fun. He'll be on some podcasts sometimes, and he has a swagger to himself too. And I always love seeing how he goes because it's, the little, the step thing that he does when he crosses first. He's really exciting too. There's just such a nice variety of personalities in the sport, but I think those are the first ones that come to mind. And there's so many more. There's so many good players in the sport. I love it.
Who's your favorite Padre of all time?
Let's see here. Tyson Ross No, I'm kidding. But I do love Tyson Ross. Um, I think for me right now, it's going. I mean, I want to almost say Jurickson Profar
Mm,
because the season that he had in 24 was one of the most inexplicable, clutch, amazing things ever. Getting a lot of flack from Dodgers fans for what I think was no reason. The Nationals incident where the guy was tapping him because he just, again, sometimes baseball has some weird cultural problems where it's like
mm,
you walk the other guy to face him and he's really amped that he just hit the walk off hit. Like what any other sport, this isn't a story. And then what happens the next day? They're messing with him. They hit him with a pitch. Manny hits that huge home run. It was great stuff. So Profar is there, but I'm going to say that I think I'm going to just go with the cliche and say Fernando Tatis Jr. because of the fact that he's just so electric. He's super fun. I'm hoping he can get back to the top level of his talent, but he is a guy that even when he's not doing well, he's the face of the franchise and a Griffey-like character for a
mm,
team that has not really had that. I understand Adrian Gonzalez, Ken Caminetti. They even had, obviously Tony Gwynn. I understand that, but for the modern era, this, Tony Gwynn was like a humble guy. You know what I mean? Tatis is like an infectious personality, like I said with Elliot Cruz. So I'm going to say him, especially because I've had so many amazing moments watching him
mm.
during a time in my life where covering the team was literally part of my job. So I think that I got to give shout outs to him.
If you could interview any player ever, who would it be?
In any sport or just baseball?
Baseball.
Alive or dead? Just any?
Any.
Any? Man. I think if I could get Barry Bonds to be very, like, what's the word? Like, be genuine and be like, no holds barred. I want to ask you, like, about for a guy that I think is mostly believed to have done some form of performance enhancing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had with everybody getting away with something, the pressures of being an athlete and wanting to be the best that I think could be really interesting. I think that CC Sabathia was one for me at one point. He has a great documentary called Under the Grapefruit Tree. If you haven't checked that out on HBO about his battle with alcohol abuse. Amazing, amazing personality. Hunter Pence is another one, believe it or not, because he's a nerd. And I'd love to talk to him about nerd stuff. Big nerd guy. So those are the ones that come to mind. Maybe even, honestly, forget Barry Bonds for a second, but the same theme I was going for. I think the Astros guys. I think I'd love to talk to Altuve, Bregman, Correa, and I wish that I don't know if you'd ever be able to get them to not own up, but be really, because Carlos Correa alluded to it before everybody jumped on the Astros, understandably so. Like the idea of the pressure around athletes that everybody gets on them all the time. Your pay and all of your livelihood depends on how you do in this game, and how that brings you to a point of cheating or brings you to a point where you're tempted to cheat. Because I think that hearing that perspective, while that does not excuse it, I do think that it's important for people to just be like, let's not make this like this is the worst crime that people have ever committed, especially in sports. There's plenty of people that are currently playing baseball that maybe if things were fair, probably shouldn't be. And I've done things that I think were a little bit worse than cheating. But then again, Sean Doolittle, now I'm going on a tangent, but Sean Doolittle had a great point where he was like, hey, but those guys cheating, what about journeyman players who maybe Bregman had a 2 home run game against them, and it turns out that they were cheating, and that guy, maybe his career got submarined because of it. So it's really difficult, but I do think there's something there about the pressures of athletes, especially in a social media age where when you fail, you get killed, even when it's not even your fault. You'll just get destroyed online.
One last question. How do you think the Padres can fix their starting roster? Because obviously, someone just got injured. Nick Pivetta, I think.
Yeah.
Herman Marquez, 3 home runs in 3 innings.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think we can do to fix that?
Oh, man. I think you just got to hope that the farm can build up in some ways. I think that you also, and it's really silly, but it's true, you got to hope that the new owners come in and give them at least a little bit of wiggle room. That's what I think. I think eventually next year, that's going to be a thing. You don't have to be able to say, hey, let us get enough money to sign a guy to an 11-year deal. That's not what I'm saying. Or a Kyle Tucker type deal. Just enough money to sign a Lucas Giolito type, who's still a free agent, which actually makes me wonder if there's a reason for that other than money. Maybe he's just not good anymore, and teams don't trust it. But just enough wiggle room, I think, and I think that new ownership could potentially be a cure for that. Otherwise, just hoping guys get better because they are kind of locked into their current roster.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Javier, and we'll see you next time on the Good Sport Podcast.
Absolutely, man. It was an honor to be on. Thank you so much for reaching out. Go Friars, stay faithful, all that jazz. And Petco Park, man. I'm almost disappointed I didn't get to talk about Petco Park because, my gosh, what a stadium that is. Shout out to Gaslamp, too. Great district. Love that very much. But seriously, man, thank you so much for having me on.